Inverse operations are operations that undo each other. Equivalent equations are equations that have the same solution.
What's that last word?
Solution.
Oh, solution.
It's just a shortened form of it. I write solution a lot, so I get tired of writing the whole thing out. All right, I'm going to jump into problems because the properties that are in there, we don't need to write the properties. But these are just one-step equations, so it's going to be something like a variable multiplied, added, subtracted, divided by another number is equal to something else. And so we're going to do that. I'm sure you've done this before. Tomorrow's going to be two-step equations, and then Monday will be multi-step equations. Well, maybe. Probably not, because I don't think we'll be here for volleyball. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Anyways, today and tomorrow are one-step and two-step equations. So, solve the equation. They say to check the solution. I don't care about that. We're just going to do the solve the equation part. For m plus 9 equals 2. So when we have something like this, I need to get the variable by itself and move the numbers over. And so if it's being added, then to get rid of it on this side, I have to subtract it. And I am going to make you show this if you want your credit. Otherwise, you're just going to get a 0. So I subtract that off. So m equals -7.
So the -7 part is going to be our answer that we need to circle?
Yes. Once you get to a variable on the one side by itself and then just a single number, that's your final answer. Let's see. 8 -3 equals 5 plus a. And it doesn't matter which side the variable's on. Usually I write my variable on the left, but it doesn't matter. So I have 5 plus a, so that's a +5, so I need to subtract 5 on both sides. So I get a is equal to -3 minus 5 is what? -8.
So does it matter how how that's written if it's written that way? Or does it have to be written that way?
As long as you have, what do you mean?
Because for the first one it was m equals -7 and now 8 is -8 equals a.
So I just did it, I just left it on the side that it started on. So the variable started on the left on this one, but it started on the right on this one. So I just left it where it was.
Okay.
But if you rewrote it as a equals -8, which is what I normally do, that's fine. But I'm just leaving it because that's the side that it was on.
Okay.
So. 12. 6 equals w minus 7. So on this one, we're subtracting 7, so I need to add 7 to move it over. So add 7 to both sides. So I get that 13 equals W. -14 -11 equals B minus 9. What do I need to do to this one?
Plus 9 to both sides.
Add 9 to both sides. So what do I get?
B equals -2.
Yep. B equals -2, -2 equals B. Doesn't matter which way we put it. Alright, so that's adding and subtracting. Now we're going to move into multiplying and dividing. So 18 -4Q equals 52. So if something's being multiplied, to undo multiplication, I do division. So I'm going to divide by -4 on both sides. So I end up with Q equals, what is 52 divided by -4? -13. And if you need to do it like this, where you like put it in the box and do like long division, you can do that too if you need to. Okay, but you got to make sure you watch your signs if you do stuff like this, because usually people don't pay attention to that when they do long division. So just make sure you're aware of that. Let's see, 20 -108 equals 9J. What would I need to do with this one? Divide by 9. And -108 divided by 9 is -12 equals J. Let's see, 24. I've got M divided by 2 equals 14. So now if we're dividing, to undo that I need to multiply. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. So I'm left with M equals 28. Yes.
What is multiplying m over 2?
What do you mean, like by 2?
Yeah, because you still multiply.
Because essentially I'm multiplying this by 2 over 1, so the 2's cancel.
Oh.
Because m divided by 2 is, well, like it's being divided. So if I multiply it by 2, the 2's cancel top and bottom. 26, I've got 7 equals t divided by -7. So when I have this, I'm dividing, so I need to multiply to cancel. So multiply by -7. You got to make sure we take the sign with it, or there's going to be a problem. And if you need to write over 1 for your reference, that's fine, but you don't have to write the over 1 part. So I multiply, I don't know why I wrote equal sign over here, times -7. -7 times 7 is? -49 equals t. And then the rest of the section is that they don't have it broken up into like adding and subtracting, multiplying and dividing, so it's just like a random section of problems. but they're still all just one-step equations. So, like 32, I've got negative 3.2 plus z equals negative 7.4. So what do I have to do with this one? Add 3.2 to both sides. So I get z equals. So when we have this, I'm going to go over this because we had some issues with this, I feel like, on the test when I was grading them. When you have two numbers where one's positive and one's negative, we need to subtract the two numbers, so 7.4 minus 3.2. But then when you get your final answer, your answer is the sign of the bigger number. So my answer in this case should be negative when it's all said and done. So 7.4 minus 3.2
4.2.
is going to be 4.2. So, and then it's negative because 7.4 was bigger. So just make sure that you're paying attention to that, because a lot of you seem to know what you were doing but then put the wrong sign on things. So just make sure we watch for that. 36. Negative 3.3a equals 19.8. What do I have to do with this one?
Dividing 4.3 or negative 3.3.
Yep, divide by negative 3.3 on both sides. Now, you might be able to figure it out by looking at it, but in case we need to do long division, I'm going to do a little refresher on that. We have 19.8 inside, 3.3 outside. But when I do long division, I don't do it with like decimals, so I need to move this stuff over. So this is going to become 198 divided by 33. And so sometimes it's some trial and error unless you have a decent idea of how many times it should go in. Any guesses?
6.
Let's try 6 and see what happens. So that gives me 18. 18 plus 1 is 19. So when I subtract, I'm left with 0. So that means that the answer is negative 6 because this was negative. So when multiplying and dividing, if one is negative, one is positive, the answer is going to be negative. If they're both the same sign, it's going to be positive.
So, do we have to do the long division, or was that just for like if you had to do it?
I was just showing that in case you didn't know what the number was, but if you can figure out just what it is from here, which like this one you probably could have, but I just wanted to do a refresher on long division because I think we were having some issues with that when people were dividing with decimals the other day. So
Wait, are we allowed to see our quizzes?
as soon as Abby takes it, yeah.
Okay.
38. N divided by 4.6 equals negative 2.5. What do I have to do to this one?
You times it by 4.6. 4.6.
Yep, multiply by 4.6 on both sides. So on the left side, I'm left with n because both things cancel. Over here, I'm going to again do a refresher on multiplying decimals because we've been having issues with this too. So I have these two things being multiplied. One's positive, one's negative. What is my final answer going to be? Negative. So I would go ahead and write that there before you even start multiplying so that you don't forget about that, because I suspect that's what happens with some of you. So when I do this, I multiply 5 times 6 is 30. Put the 3 up here. 5 times 4 is 20. Add 3 is 23. Then in the second row, when I go to the second number, I have to start with the 0. 2 times 6 is 12. Carry the 1. I'm gonna scratch the 3 out, sort of. Kind of just looks like I wrote another 3 over top of it. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. So then I add these numbers together. 0, 5, 11. I have 2 decimal places up here that I started with, so that means that I need to take this imaginary decimal point that's right here and move it over 2 places. So my final answer would be 11.5, but it was negative, so it's negative 11.5. Okay, if you write the 0 that's on the end, that's fine, but you don't need it. It's unnecessary. See, 42. Negative 7 equals 1/5 times x. Now, something I noticed is that quite a few of you are changing fractions to decimals. I would recommend against you doing that because a lot of you got problems wrong because you were doing that. Because your final answer, I mean, it shouldn't make the answer wrong, but you were getting all confused and having a lot of like decimals moving around. So I would say we need to get really good with fractions. But I want to show you something about one like this. What do you notice is different about this problem from 38?
It's not decimal.
Okay, it's not a decimal, but what else do we notice?
Fractions being multiplied times the variable, instead of the variable being divided.
Yeah. So multiplying something by 1 over something is the same as dividing, right? So this is an equivalent equation to negative 7 is equal to x over 5. Okay? So the way we're going to deal with this is the exact same way. Now, if it's a fraction with something other than a 1 on top, then we have to multiply by like the reciprocal of the fraction. So when I go to do this one, I'm going to be multiplying by 5. And then my 5s are going to cancel here. I need to make sure when I put this over here, I would put it in parentheses so that when you're multiplying, you don't accidentally end up subtracting on that side because that number is negative. So 5 times negative 7 would be negative 35 is equal to x.
Would 42 be multiplying or dividing? Because it's multiplied by x, but 1 over 5 is division.
So I just said that multiplying by 1 over a number is just like saying the number divided by that. Like x divided by the number. So I just need to multiply it by 5. Now this next one's going to look a little different, but I'm going to do the exact same thing. 44. Negative 21 equals negative 3 over 5 times t. Okay? So I'm going to leave this one again in this fraction form. So I have a negative 3 over 5 being multiplied by t. I need to get rid of it on that side. To do that, I need to multiply by its multiplicative inverse. Okay, I need to flip the fraction to multiply it so that things cancel. So it's going to multiply by a negative 5 over 3. Okay, so when you do that, then notice 3's cancel over here, 5's cancel, and the negatives are gone. So all I'm left with is a t on this side. So over here, I'm multiplying by negative 5 over 3. If I need to, I can imagine this 21 is over a 1 so that I see it with my fraction. Then I see multiplying, I would reduce this 3 and this negative 21 to become a negative 7. So now I have negative 5 times negative 7, which is 35. So 35 is equal to t. All right, any questions on any of those?
No.
Or do we need to see any more? Are we okay? Good? Okay. And your problems are 5, 9, 13, 19, 21, 27, 33, 35, 41, and 45.